been sensing that God wants a deeper relationship with you? That God wants to be intimately involved in your life? That He is inviting you to give your life in love and service by following in the footsteps of Jesus? Maybe even over time, a gentle, quiet thought keeps emerging that God may be calling you to live your life as a religious sister. But what does that mean? How do you know if God is calling you to be a sister? How do you discover the deepest desires of your heart? The good news is that God wants us to be happy and to live our life to the full. God is inviting us into friendship. Think about that. To accept this invitation means taking time to talk to and to listen to God in prayer. We only need to open the door to Jesus, because Jesus wants us to have a close encounter with Him. If He wants us to experience the joy of knowing God's desire for us, if you really want to know whether or not God is calling you to live your life as a religious sister, then beginning what is called a discernment process is where to start. Discernment, it's a spiritual process of being attentive to who God is calling you to be and what God is calling you to do at this time in your life. It means our hearts need to be attuned to God drawing us into friendship and God's intention for the world and for you. Discernment is like a novel, where each page takes you a little deeper into the novel and a little closer to the final chapter. To begin a decision-making process with openness requires a generous heart, meaning I put no conditions on what God might call me to be or to do. This calls for courage in giving up control to God. How do you know what God is calling you to do in life? Frederick Buechner says, "The place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet." To find your calling, listen for God's voice within your heart by really paying attention to your inner desires, your longings, and your aspirations by regularly setting aside time for prayer. Getting a spiritual director who you can talk with about prayer and inner movements, along with your fears and desires, is really important. And gathering data is part of any good decision-making process. Part of that process is gathering information, for instance, via the internet, or reading materials about different communities and about religious life, and talking with sisters you know and others familiar with religious life to narrow your choice. It is really important that you talk with a vocation director who is glad to help you through the process of exploring religious life. You should also attend a Come and See weekend to learn more about religious life as it's lived in the communities you will visit. Get to know their spirit and their mission, and importantly, weigh whether you feel a sense of belonging and feel at home to determine a best fit. You will also want to consider opportunities for ministry in the communities you are exploring, given your experiences, your gifts, and your talents. Eventually, you will begin to sense if your deepest desire is religious life and if it is God's purpose for you in life. You will begin to understand as well whether there is a best fit, a sense of belonging, and a rightness, and where you can use your gifts in the service of God's people. So let me give you 7 steps to make a good decision. Remember, a vocation is God's call that we hear by listening to God's voice within us as God speaks to us through our experiences and within our heart. It's all about a relationship. First, know that God created you for a purpose. Second, pray and pay attention to your inner desires and begin spiritual direction. 3, consider your options and explore various lifestyles, careers, and communities you're attracted to. 4, have personal experiences with the options you were drawn to and that you identify with. 5, sense which option seems a best fit for you. What gives you a sense of belonging and offers the best opportunity to serve God and others. 6, make a decision. Live with it for a while to see how you feel. It may mean making a leap of faith and trusting that God wants your happiness. And 7, after you make a decision, notice if God blesses you with a sense of peace and rightness over time. If you want to begin discerning your calling and are uncertain, trust that God is speaking to you, and if you listen and respond, you will come to know your calling. May God bless you, and remember to enjoy the journey along the way.